Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Working on Dance Games with Function. And today, we are going to be focusing on the dance game hoses. This will include the normal type of hoses that you normally see, just the opaque black hoses that you normally see, how to properly replace them with a better hose, as well as how to assemble these RGB hoses, as well as a couple other nuanced topics when it comes to what to look out for, the proper products to use, and yeah, let's go ahead and get started. The biggest part of why I'm making this video is because, as you can see, the older style of dance game pad hoses, they have this metal like coil that goes around the inside of a rubber tubing, and anyone who has been to public arcade, unless they are the type that have the platforms, the wooden platforms that go between the pads and the cab, will tell you that the hoses, they generally end up devolving into this type of condition where the metal is like split, and because it is indeed metal, these edges can be sharp actually and pose a bit of a hazard. The rubber will also split, and this happens if this just gets stepped on enough times. And so it very much warrants a replacement of a better material. This is actually an older type. I think this either came off of, I don't know if this came off of a, no, this definitely isn't Supernova. This is an older style of Japanese DDR cab. And it looks like, for this part, they did actually mate the hose with its end decently as well. Doesn't really resolve the metal failure though, but what you'll end up encountering with a lot of modern dance games, both DDR and pump, is the hose itself will kind of come out of its endpoint pretty easily, and so that's another reason why doing a hose replacement will be viable for preventing that. Alright, so I just dropped by one of my local Home Depots and obtained one of the hoses, and this is the specific type that I get that works best for the purpose of a dance game pad hose. And I'll of course have a link to this in the description, but let's take a look real quick. It'll come with all types of auxiliary like adapters and such. We don't necessarily need these ones for our purposes, but the main body of the hose, go ahead and extend it out. And the ends of it are a little bit irregular, so you can go ahead and cut those ones off. You don't need anything special, just some scissors will do. And then same with the other side. And basically, this here is the original hose. Go ahead and just measure out the length of the original hose that you have, and then just cut the new hose that you're going to install to that same length, and it's pretty much ready to go for that purpose. This does cover, it does have quite a bit of excess, so it does have enough length to accommodate both DDR as well as bump it up, or most dance game hose lengths that you'll encounter. Alright, I'm in a situation in which I need to assemble one of these pad conduit hoses. I sometimes call it the umbilical hose as well. I don't know what the actual name for it is, but what I do know is how to successfully thread your wires through the hose itself. And just in case, if anyone's looking for that type of knowledge, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that here, how I do it. So, what you will need is some string of any type, should be fine. I like to use this type of yarn because it's easy to tie, which I'll show you why in a sec. You'll need some masking tape, preferably this thick would be helpful. And then you need just whatever type of heavy little trinket. This is just a socket. Something that you can use, that you can drop through the hose. And, well, you can probably see where this is going, but we'll see why that's the case in a sec. Take your string, tie it through. Doesn't really matter the type of knot you do. I'm not really that great with tying knots. I just know a square knot. But the point is that just tie the string in such a way that this will not come loose. And then go ahead and drop it in. Let it feed all the way through. And continue to let it feed through so that it comes out the other side. And from here, Just make sure to give yourself plenty of slack, and then from there, make sure that, give yourself plenty of room so that this end of the wire, or not wire, end of the string does not fall back through, because we need to be able to use this side now. And what we're going to do next is we're going to get our wires ready to thread through. Now, you want to make sure that all the wires, that they're not zip tied, because generally, if you do take this one out of here, you'll notice that it's tied together, and it's also tied together throughout the hose, just to keep it together. But for this step, what we're going to be doing is we want it separate, because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go ahead and stagger them like this. Now, the reason we want to do it like this, instead of having them all together, is because it gives them a more thin profile, so that they'll be able to slide through the hose more. Makes it so that it's less area. So yeah, in fact, actually, I think it might even be better if we lead with this one first. There we go. So have it staggered in its order like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tape it all together. But before we do that, there's one last thing we need to do. And that is tie our string around the harness as well. Now, there are a particular way that you want to do this is you want to kind of get it so that it is going across the, kind of the middle of the harness. Because if you just do it like through one side or the other, when you pull on the string, it's gonna go like that or like that. So you want to try and make it in such a way that you go across the diagonal. Let's see, yeah. Kind of across the diagonal of the harness. And then go ahead and tie another square knot. Let's see. There we go. And so now we are ready. Well, the string is ready, so that when we pull on this end, it will pull the harness through. So now we got to attach all the rest of the harnesses to this one so that they can all go through together. And like I said, you want to stagger them all together, and then you just go to town and wrap it all together. So, go ahead and continue to wrap up the harnesses in tape. Doesn't have to be pretty, just needs to stay together. Let's go get that straggler. And there you go. And now that they will all be held together like that, now we can go ahead and route it through using the string to be able to pull it through. You can kind of, depending on the width of the hose that you're using, you can probably shove it in for a good portion, but eventually when you can't get that same amount of push, you go ahead and you just use, gotta straighten this one out a little bit. Got a little bit too tangled here, let's see. There we go. And now, if we continue to pull it through, and we're almost there. There we go. I guess it kind of got a little off center there, but, and you can, depending on if you're working with a pre-made harness or if you made your own. Whenever I make my own, I do generally try to just overcompensate, just because if you have it so that they're both kind of if one end of the harness is too close to the rim of the hose, then it's a little bit difficult to work with. So I personally prefer to have too much slack over not enough. But that's pretty much it. So after that's done, go ahead and cut off the string that we no longer need. Go ahead and unwrap it. Here, very carefully cut it off if need be. There we go. And there you go. You have your conduit wires successfully routed through. The reason why I had to do this one is that this is a custom harness that I have to make for a client. But yeah, so this is one way to do that. So this is the hose that's a part of my pump cab. And as you can see, I have already threaded the wires through this. I already did this a while ago, but this also demonstrates that it's a pretty simple assembly to dismantle as well as reassemble again. So pretty much this same process applies for both pump and DDR, and as well as ITG as well for most cabs. There are a couple exceptions, but those mainly apply to the Pump It Up LX Chinese cabs, where this hole will have a wider diameter. At that point, there are different diameters of hoses that you can get, but as for this particular one, this is the hose that I showed before, is the ideal size for it. So the nice convenient thing about this hose is that its diameter is pretty concentric with the diameter of this hole as well. And these grooves, these rings of the hose, they pretty much act as the locking mechanism for keeping the hose inside your hose box. And I'll go over just demonstrating that right now. So whatever cables that you have of your hose, go ahead and thread them through. And then this hose, it is pliable and bendable, but still resilient. So pretty much all you need to do is just squeeze it in a certain way in order to fit it in. So I'll go ahead and see if I can do so in a way that you'll be able to see. You pretty much, let's see. You'll pretty much pinch the hose in such a way that it can kind of fold in on itself a little bit. Kind of like that. So that's end diameter is reduced, and then you can go ahead and fit it in, and then go ahead and release and let it expand back to its normal shape. You might need to reach inside a little bit to be able to do that. And then, if you're able to finagle that just right, make sure that the ring that you are positioning it of the hose is the same across the circumference of the hose box socket. Need to force that a little bit into better position. Almost there. Let's rotate it around, see? Come on. And there we go. So now my hose box is able to rotate freely, and you see the rings on the inside. They are what are keeping this hose in place. And there you have it. You pretty much just continue your hose box assembly to your pad, and there you have a nice, durable, and you can cut this to whatever length you want. And this is a very viable hose replacement for if you want to just stick with the regular type of hose, the non-RGB one. Though this hose may be applied to my personal Pump It Up machine, which resides mainly in my home, I do take it to conventions sometimes, but I am very confident that this hose is a good replacement for the stock hose that comes with traditional DDR or Pump It Up machines, and as you can see, I'm demonstrating that it does. You are able to step on it, and it returns back to its original form, and still retains its strength, and does not do the thing that the stock hoses do, where their metal interior protective lining will actually just implode and separate, and thus introduce sharp metal edges, which become a severe hazard to the electronics within. So, no, I'm pretty confident that in this hose, and in fact, this same exact hose has been on this machine roughly for the past 6 years. So that's just a testament to its durability as well. And yeah. Alright. So, this time for the dance pad hose process, I'm going to go ahead and create one of the RGB hoses. Serves the same exact purpose of connecting the pads to the cab, only it looks a little bit nicer and has some lights. So I am here at a local Ace Hardware, and as you can see, you will see an area called bulk hosing, where you will see these racks and spools with the different types of hoses. And pretty much, so long as you have the part that you need in order to assemble your pad hose, you can go ahead and just make sure that whichever one that you choose matches the diameter of the socket for the hose assembly. And as you can see, there are other options when it comes to clear or transparent hoses that you can use. It's just so long as that diameter fits. And yeah, so for this one in particular, this is the size that I use for this assembly. So for this process, we're going to go ahead and create a not only a hose replacement, but an RGB glow-up hose for a DDR Platinum cab. And I figure a lot of people might be in that situation now, where they have ownership over modern DDRs, so might as well show this process for if people want to do the same with theirs. And yeah, so for this hose, one thing I forgot to mention while I was at Ace Hardware is you will have to ask one of the associates to cut it down for you, and they'll very likely cut it down in 1 foot increments. You can see it kind of has like these markings on it. So I had to overestimate the length of this hose up to 4 feet total. And so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it down though, so that it will match the length of this stock DDR hose. So let's go ahead and do that now. And well, once you got that measurement, you no longer need this anymore. Don't throw it away because, I mean, it is a stock piece of your now official DDR cab, so just keep it somewhere safe. Anyway, let's see. Now that I have that marked out, you can either use, if you have heavy duty scissors, you can go ahead and do that, or if that doesn't cut it, then go ahead and try just using a any type of saw might do. For my case, go ahead and with the scissors, it will take a bit of force and finagling, but it can be done, as seen here. And there we go. I have a little bit of excess that we no longer need as well. So now that we have it at the proper length, what we can do now is we can go ahead and make sure that the hose will fit into the socket. Now, oh, okay, that's not too bad. I was a little worried about this because, as you can see, the shape of the hose, if these things are in stock at their store for long enough, and since they're sitting on that vertical spool, you can see how it's kind of compressed vertically instead of like actually, properly circular. So if you do need to fit this into the socket of your dance pad hose box, you might need to force it into shape so that it will actually fit in, and just like so. And so we got that to make sure that it fits. That's all fine and dandy for now. Let's see. Now, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to make sure that when we put this into here, since unlike the stock hose that had like a threaded circular ring that goes around it that keeps the hose from coming out, there's nothing like that on this hose. So we need to come up with an alternate solution that serves that purpose. And I'm sure that there might be other methods of doing this, but the way that I've found out that gives adequate security is by using these nuts and bolts. I don't drop them. And I'll be showing you how to apply these to it. And also, one thing to note, for the actual DDR cab, this will be the one connected to the cab side, and this will be the part connected to the pad side. And hopefully this works out for anyone who pursues this same endeavor, but you'll notice how this top side of the hose is blank, and then this side has like these markings And so luckily, the way that this will end up is that marking will be face down, so it won't be visible to the customer. However, even if that ends up not being the case, it shouldn't be that big of an issue, because when the lights do glow up on the inside of the hose, this will become a lot less apparent. So it's not too big of a deal. I just wanted to point out all those little details for those who want the best possible results. Yeah. So anyway, this end will go into here, this end will go into here, obviously. So the point of making sure that the hose does not fall out of this, though, we're basically going to apply this bolt through here. We're going to drill some holes through this part of the hose, and then use these nuts to keep this bolt in place. And basically, when you have this bolt in there, it will make it so that the hose cannot come out. And so, I'll demonstrate the steps for that process now. As mentioned before, we will need to drill through the hose. And in order to do that, you don't necessarily need to use a drill for this, since it's a pretty malleable material. So I'm just going to stick with my impact driver for it. You're going to need to use the right size drill bit. And for this one, you do want to make sure that you use the accurate size drill bit for the size that matches the bolt. You want it to be a pretty snug fit, because if you make a hole that's too big, then the bolt will be able to slide through it, and that will not, the bolt will not stay in place and serve the purpose of keeping the hose inside the box. So, for this, I will recommend the 1/4 inch drill bit. And so, to get started, and here's another, another important detail that I want to point out here, is when we're doing this process, when the hose is along the ground, it'll be in this orientation. And so when we do the drilling of the hole for the bolt, we want it to go up and down, vertical. And what that will do for us is it will make it so that this, when the hose moves around in this orientation, it will be able to freely rotate like that. And for instance, if we have the bolt in this orientation horizontally like that, it will not be able to as freely rotate like that. And it'll put a lot of stress on the bolt, which will put stress on the hose and could possibly make a tear that will kind of get the bolt to come out of the hose and make a tear through it like that. But here, basically just trust me, alright? You want to make sure that you make your hole vertically, going up and down. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, make your vertical hole. Come back out. And make the other corresponding hole. Try to get it to roughly the same distance from the edge as you did the other one. Let's do that now. Come back out. And this will make some debris, so go ahead and make sure you keep your workstation clean. I'm too lazy to get my vacuum, so I'm just going to sweep it up like this. And so we have one side done with the hole drilled through. And we don't necessarily need to complete the assembly for this part yet, but I just still want to show proof of concept of what the idea of doing all this stuff is. So once you have your bolt going through, pretty much the presence of the bolt will keep the hose inside the hose box, just like that. And but like I said, we're not quite ready for that step just yet, because, well, we also need to do the other side, but we also need to put in the wires into the hose as well, because yeah, we want to drill these holes before putting the wires into the hose, because, well, obviously it's a bad idea to do any drilling into this when there are wires in it. You can obviously destroy the wires. So let me go ahead and pre-drill the holes on this side as well. Let's go ahead and make sure that the bolt will indeed fit. And of course it's the same exact thing we did on that side, but whatever your process is that you're doing, it's always good to double check. As my mentor used to tell me, test, don't guess. Better safe than sorry. And so there we go. So this hose is ready to eventually be placed into the boxes. And now, the fun part, get to prepare our wiring to be put into the hose. And we prepare it first. We'll come back to this part later. We prepare it by mating it with our RGBs. Something that comes into play when working with these USB string lights is that this joint right here, where the cables connect with the USB board, it is a bit delicate, and given how much we will be moving things around for this operation, I do strongly recommend that you reinforce this contact. I don't know if you can see, but the inside wires, they do indeed move around. And if that gets tugged on in just the wrong way, the contacts of the wires to the board can separate. I have experienced this in the past, and one way to get around that is with a simple hot glue. So, you pretty much just try to stuff as much of the wire into it as you can, and then just pretty much go around the perimeter of the wire with some hot glue. You don't need to put a whole lot, but just enough to mate the wires with the plastic housing of the USB properly. And we let it cool. And after the hot glue cools all the way, you can see that this connection is now a lot more secure. So now we can go ahead and do the wrapping around the wires without fear of this separation. And also, just for good measure, I'm gonna go ahead and plug this guy in to make sure that, yep, all the lights and the controls are still, yep, still look good. So now we can go ahead and proceed with the operation of wrapping this around the conduit wires. This is going to be the most time-consuming and tedious process of this, but I'll go ahead and just demonstrate it here. Oh, I forgot to get one more thing as well. You will want to have handy these small zip ties, and you'll see how these come into play as this process goes on. And in conjunction with that, you want zip tie cutters. Well, actually, hold on. We need to use those zip tie cutters right now. So as I demonstrated in the previous portion of this video, you do want to have, I'm cutting these zip ties that came with it that hold them all together. You want to cut these guys so that the all the different little harnesses, they are not going to be, you can stagger them so that they're not all a part of the same cross section. When you have them in rows like that, it allows it to have a smaller cross section that will be able to fit through the hose easier. And also, that reminds me, in order to do that process, I'll need some of that tape eventually. So from here, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to zip tie this, not permanently. Like I said, we will need to cut more, we'll need our cutters in order to keep on cutting some of these zip ties, but for now, we do want the hose wires together. We are ready now to go ahead and apply the RGB string light to our wiring harnesses. And so, in order to get that started, what we're going to do is, for this one, it doesn't really matter the position that you put it on here, but go ahead and just give it a little bit of slack. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose one of these harnesses. We'll go ahead and choose the biggest, the 8-pin harness, as the leader. And we're going to start by zip tying the RGB string light to only this harness, not to everything else, just this one. and you'll see why later on in the process. Just trust me for now, bro. And just because I don't want these zip tie pieces getting in my way, go ahead and cut off that slack. Careful, obviously, whenever using this tool around your wires. You do not want to damage any of these components. And from here comes the tedium. You literally just start twirling, going around. And for this length of light, I believe this was the 33 feet. So, no, wait. No, yeah, this is the 33 feet. And from what I will link the RGB in the description, but I do believe that there are different lengths. So if you want to experiment with longer string RGB, if you find that this might not be bright enough for you, go ahead and see if you can get an even longer string light. That way it will provide more lighting and a more dense glow up for your pad hose. And this is indeed going to take a while. And as you can see, as I do this, it starts rotating and this starts moving around. A little trick that I do to keep it in place, take your impact driver. It's heavy enough to hold it down. And so as you twirl, it'll keep the spool in place. And that way, you can go ahead and continue twirling without having to worry about the position of the spool. So as you can see, I do have quite a bit left to go, and I'm already almost to the end of the hose. So it's not an exact science, but if you want to make sure that your hose has a good consistency of lighting, pay attention to how you space out the lighting. And what I'm probably going to end up having to do is, after I get to the very end, I may end up just winding back the other way as well, and hopefully to compensate the rest of the space. But we'll see how it goes when we get there. Well, I know what I said just a moment ago about potentially winding back along the other way. However, in retrospect, that might not be a good idea. And here's why. Another little detail to pay attention to with regard to the type of light that you get, as well as the settings that your light controller comes with. Let me show you. The setting that I have right now for it goes... It's a directional setting. So as you see, it'll go along the length of the hose, and if I start to wind back the other way, then it might not look as clean if it's like kind of jumbled up a little bit in one area. Alternatively, if I planned ahead and wanted to go full one way and then full the other, then maybe that could do the trick. But we'll see. I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to kind of like loosen it up, give it a little more slack, and then kind of file it back a little bit, make it more dense throughout the entirety of the wiring. But also, I should have gone over this before, but and I will link, again, I'll link the specific model of the string light that I'm using here, but on the USB, it'll have a button that you can use to toggle different types of designs and lights and stuff. And it doesn't matter too much, just do whatever floats your fancy. I think this one even actually has some audio-controlled reactions. No, not that one. But either way, you get the point. So, yeah. But these are, again, just all kinds of little factors to take into account when you are doing this process. Just for the aesthetics of it. But yeah. There we go. That's one of the sound reactive ones. That's all fun and stuff. If you want to play with that one too, you can. But, I don't know. It's usually loud in the arcades anyway, so it might end up just be continuously reacting. But, yeah. But anyway, the other reason why it's good to take like a short pit stop to do this is make sure as you were doing the operation of the twirling, make sure that none of these get damaged, or that the string light overall is still functional, still in working condition. But now that that's out of the way, I go ahead and do that thing where I try to even out the density of the lighting. All of the RGB has been dispensed, so I'm just doing a little bit of less fine touches to spacing out the lights. Try to get it look semi-consistent. I don't think I did a very good job this time, but hey, it'll still look nice. And to the average customer, it'll still look all shiny and stuff and colorful, so that's all I really meant. And there we go. And remember how we connected the other end of it to the biggest, the 8-pin harness. We're going to go ahead and do that same thing on this end of it. Actually, here, before we do that, one more thing that I will also like to point out. This might just be paranoia on my part, but something I like to do just for security purposes. Get a little bit of electrical tape and go ahead and stick it over the end of the light rope, because there's just very small wire contacts that are kind of exposed, so I like to cover them up just because you never know what can happen, because this end of it will be in a metal box, and so if this touches it in just the wrong way, it could ruin the light strip or cause a short. So go ahead and have that covered, and then we'll take another one of our small zip ties and have that mated with the big harness. And again, the purpose for that will be made apparent later, but for now we have our light, and our wires are still in a staggered order, which we will need in order to be able to thread it through the hose. And also, just for good measure, let's go ahead and do one more check, make sure we didn't damage any of the lights, and it does flow through successfully. Looks good. Alright. Now on to the very, very fun parts. Shouldn't need that anymore. The part we will be threading the wires through the transparent hose. And so, similar to the process that I showed last time, this is where we're going to use our string as well as a small piece of metal. For this, the direction and order in which you put the hose in will be important, because on one end we have the USB control. So if we have our cab and pads, the hose will be in this orientation. So we need to make sure that how we do it is, and since this side has the USB as well, we don't want to thread this side first because this will add a lot more cross-sectional area. So we're going to want to lead with this side going through here. That way, this will be the side of the pad, and this will go into a USB port of the cab. So let's go ahead and do that process next. So go ahead and drop a piece of metal with the string in the direction that we want the pad wires to flow. There we go. Go ahead and stick with this length of string. Oh, come on. maybe I need to sharpen these. That's all the string we'll need for now. And so, just like before, we go ahead and shoot. Alright, it looks like I kind of planned this poorly. So, and hey, I guess we're going to go ahead and show why I instructed that we tie the lights to just one of the harnesses. Is because now, what I want to do, I want this to be the one leading in, going to the hose first. So, what we're going to end up having to do, we have the zip tie that's holding the light to this biggest harness, and then the general one that's holding them all together. We can go ahead and cut the general one that's holding them all together, because guess what? We have the lights holding the whole thing all together. And after we cut the general zip tie, we can go ahead and reposition the harnesses and change the order in which they stick out. There we go. So as you hold the 8-pin harness in place, you can grab onto the other sized harnesses and pull them apart so that now this one is in front of that one. And we'll repeat this process for the 2-pin harness and the 3-pin harness. We repeat the process that I mentioned before on the regular hose. Go ahead and try to tie this in such a way that the string goes kind of in between an even part of the harness so that it doesn't cause like a jackknife effect. Now, what we can do is go ahead and tape them all together. Really hoping that the shape of this hose being all compressed doesn't cause an issue. But let's go ahead and see. Let's find out the fun way. Here we go. Threading the harness through the hose. Wish me luck. And there we have it. We were able to successfully thread our harness wires through the hose. Go ahead and unwrap this now. Remove the string. It's completed its purpose. And all right, we're making good progress. However, still not quite done, because now we need to install or mate the hose with the end boxes. And again, it does matter which side we have connected to what. This is the one for the platinum pads. This is for the platinum cab. And so the cab side is the one that will need the USB part. So this is the correct positioning that we have. And still got, I'm gonna need my nut back. Can I do it without cutting myself? Come on. Please. There we go. Alright, so for each of these sides you will need 2 M6 nylon lock nuts. I will also have these linked in the description for clarification. And you will need a bolt. It doesn't necessarily have to be this type, where some of it is unfeatured and then some of it is threaded, so long as some of that end is indeed threaded. And this one in particular, the size that I recommend for the platinum cab hose, is 6 centimeters or 60 millimeters. And so, to start off, we'll go ahead and get our wires into place. Actually, here, before we do that also, I'm going to go ahead and standardize the position of these harnesses relative to one another first. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and thread our wires through into the hose box. And gotta smash the hose so that it fits into the box as well, and there we go. So that's cool. However, we do need to be able to work on the hose so that we can apply the bolts to it. So what I recommend you do is this. Temporarily flip the orientation of the hose within the box so that you can do this. Check this out. Kind of got to twist and finagle it. Don't worry, the hose is very durable. And temporarily have the hose exposed through the box so that now we have space to be able to apply the bolt. And so, you may have picked up on this by now, but you got to be very careful how you apply this bolt to the hose so that you do not go through any of the wiring and pierce it or anything like that. So be careful when putting in your bolts. Don't just blindly put it in. You can either have your wires like to one side or the other, or kind of have the bolt go in between. Doesn't really matter too much. All that matters is that the bolt does not doesn't crush any of the wiring inside. So now that I've made sure that that's out of the way, go ahead. Oh wait, actually, hold up. This is actually okay. Yeah, here. This is the part that does get a little bit more complicated, because you'll notice that I have two nuts here, not just one. So what I'm going to have to do here is take some pliers and hold it in place, and then have a let's see, this is a 10mm socket. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to preemptively have one of these nuts threaded onto the bolt inside the hose. That's why you'll need some of the needle nose pliers, and then kind of screw in the bolts through the nut. This part does take a little bit of finessing, so give it some time. And I believe I have it started. And the reason for which I'm doing this will be apparent later on. Go ahead and get it threaded pretty much up to the point where the threads stop on this bolt. Conveniently, that is the right spacing for it. And there we go. So now the reason why we have that bolt on the inside is so that when we have the bolt going through the hose, it makes sure that this part of the bolt protrudes enough to be able to catch the side of the inside of the box, preventing the hose from exiting the box. And then the other side has enough thread material exposed so that you can apply the other nut on the outside. Go ahead and take some pliers, hold one side still, and then take your driver. And there you go. There you go. We now have the Frankenstein bolt applied to the hose. Our wires are good and intact. And now we can go ahead and reorient it back to proper position. And slide the hose box back onto the end of the hose. And there you go. We have our harnesses still exposed, the RGB still connected there, and we have the bolt that is holding the hose in place, so now it cannot escape from the pad box. And here's the lovely part of this process is now we get to do it on the other side. Yay! I'll try to just get through this as quickly as I can. one more little detail about specifically DDR pads. This applies to black HD, white, and presumably gold, but confirmed platinum as well. You'll notice that there's this grounding O-ring right here. And the way that we apply that is you'll see there's a little Phillips screw right there. So just for safety reasons, go ahead and make sure that this is fastened to that position in there. Your end result should look like that, with the green and yellow wire going to that screw. And there we have it. Fully assembled DDR Platinum cab RGB conversion hose. And here we go. 3, 2, 1, start. And there we go. Looks pretty good to me. It's bright enough. And yeah, looks like the lights are evenly spaced out enough so that the design maintains its integrity. And just for kicks, I want to see what the other ones are. Yeah, that one looks pretty cool. I think that one actually, you know what, yeah. I think this is what I went with on the one that I worked on last time. So yeah, we'll go ahead and stick with this one. And then pretty much from there, it's just a matter of installing it on your cab, which I'll probably split that into another part of this video. But yeah, the hard part is out of the way though. Putting this together, I'm gonna be honest, I really don't like doing this process. It takes a while, and this video is probably even going to be pretty long despite all the time-lapsing I'm going to do through it. So, yeah. But still, I know that this is a desired feature from some dance game players, enthusiasts, and cab owners. So I figured I wanted to at least explain the process that I do it. If anyone has any input, different ideas, or feedback, please let me know. We'll go ahead and continue this at where we have some of our platinum cabs, so we can show you the rest. Alright, so we have here the front of one of our DDR Platinum cabs, and so in order to prepare the USB cable that will be needed to power the RGBs, we will need to, okay, I'll be straight up about this. When I last did this, I actually got really lucky because I was able to not need to take off this part, and I was able to just thread the USB cable through where I needed to get it to. However, I really was just lucky at that time because I'm going to go ahead and take off this panel, and I do recommend you do the same for this process, to show you. And also, since this is an extremely thin piece of plastic, be very careful when assembling and dismantling it. I am using an impact driver for this, but if you're not comfortable with that, then just do it by hand because, yeah, when reassembling, you don't want to impact it or else it could crack this. And you see why this damage is very susceptible to happen on these cabs. Yay, because of how thin this is. And then you get the exposed subwoofer, which is also further proof that, in case it wasn't 100% clear before, these are just damaged cabs. Anyway, moving on. So, you need to be able to thread the USB cable through this socket, this opening, and then right down into, let's see, into this little triangular shaped hole right here. You need to thread it through there. And then, if you go to the other side, you will see the other end of the cable come out through here. And then this cable just goes ahead and plugs into any one of these open USB ports. Coincidentally, this is USB 3.0. It does not need to be 3.0. It's just what I have on hand. And then the length of this cable is 4 feet long. So long as you have one that is at least 4 feet long, you should be able to make this work. But anyway, after that, you go ahead and make sure your USB cable remains exposed. And then you go ahead and reassemble this bad boy back. And yes, be very careful with this. If you do choose to use a power tool, notice how I am not impacting any of these screws. And then, after you have that panel reassembled, go ahead and just do the standard assembly of your pad hose, with the only change being that you now include a USB. If you have to, go ahead and feed some of that excess USB cable in, but if not, there should be enough space inside this box to be able to fit all your cables with them. DDR Platinum and Gold cabs also have the addition of this leveling leg right here. I'm not going to engage it right now just because this is not the final resting place for this cab. In fact, this isn't even the hose that's going to go with this cab as well. But go ahead and just do a couple of these screws just to throw it together temporarily. There you go. And then you would go ahead and engage this leveling leg. But anyway, I don't have the pads to connect right now, but also just for proof of concept, like we had before, we have the internal bolt that's in here in a vertical position. That way this can rotate freely along this axis, giving you more leeway as to how far you can get your pads away. And same goes for this guy too, so you can get it to move even further away since it's able to rotate like that, if you were to have the pads in right now. But anyway, now that's all that is hooked up. Now when we power on the machine, voila. We have there our fully assembled DDR pad hose with the RGB mod. Alright, so I have here one of the Pump It Up LX machines that I've worked on, and as you can see, I have also done the RGB hose mod on this one as well. But I wanted to take a moment to demonstrate why, a big part of why I don't enjoy doing this process is that when it comes to doing the DDR Platinum cab hose, I'm lucky because the harnesses, though there are more, they are significantly smaller than the harnesses that you see on Pump It Up. So these ones, because of how much bigger they are, when you are threading them through the hose, you need to stagger them significantly in order to reduce the cross-sectional area so that they can feed through the hose better. And due to the nature of the size of the hose, it is an extremely tight fit. So you need to make sure that when you tie the string around the leading harness, that you do so completely evenly. And they all, like I said, need to be properly staggered so that they can all go in a single file line. And it takes an immense amount of finagling. So, in fact, when it came to doing this one specifically, as you can see, these are not stock harnesses. Well, I mean, well, they're the same model as the proper Pump It Up harnesses, but these are not the ones that it came with. As the ones that pads come with are the red and blue. I'm pretty sure it was a while ago that I did this, but when I did this one, I'm pretty sure I straight up just took off the harnesses, fed the wires through without the harnesses, and that made them thread through pretty easily. And then I just repinned them when they got to the other side, which that's a process not everyone is prepared to do. And if enough people are curious about that, I can link part numbers, pins, and tools needed to be able to do that. However, within reason, it's not feasible. It's a lot of work. But anyway, I just wanted to demonstrate that. So when it comes to doing DDR Platinum, though, that is one thing that is advantageous with this cab, is the process of threading through the wires. You saw me do it earlier. It went by pretty quickly. Threading that same one through, even when you also have the extra thickness of the RGB rope light, that makes it an extremely arduous process. So if you are committed to this project, please just keep that in mind, and fair warning of what you'll be getting into. And of course, obviously, whatever applies to pump pads also applies to ITG pads, so bear that in mind. And yeah, that's just about it when it comes to working on dance game hoses. If anyone has any questions or needs any type of clarifications, please let me know in the comments. And if anyone has any particular dance game pad or hardware topics that you would like me to go over, or any questions, put those in the comments too. If it ends up becoming a big enough topic, then maybe that'll be the next video I make. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful in at least some way, and if you did enjoy or did learn something that you didn't know before, as always, please consider donating in the link that is in the description. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.
Okay guys, today we're going to be showing you how to hide the body. So first you're going to want to have to